Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
Julie Andrews. Mary is the winner. Thank you very much for this beautiful honor. She took home an Oscar. She enchanted the world. Nevertheless, behind Julie Andrews, her flawless smile was a dark secret, stored for 60 years. The startling incident started filming a film set in 1965. She had a spouse. He had a spouse. They had explosive chemistry. When rumors circulated regarding their hidden hotel discussions, studio executives vowed to destroy both of them. Julie decided to keep quiet, up to now. The star of The Sound of Music, the illicit romance is ultimately revealed. She lost everything because of that. Andrews, Julie, was born in a modest English town in 1935. Walton on Thames was called. However, even as her life was already complicated, baby. Her Barbara, the mother, had an affair with the outcome was Julie and a family friend. Julie thought someone else for years was her dad. She only learned about the truth at the age of 15. That fact remained a secret until she revealed it, herself in her decades-long autobiography later. At the start of World War II, her family life collapsed. Her parents split up and then got married again. Julie traveled, occasionally residing with her biological father, Ted Andrews, mother, and new stepfather. It wasn't easy living with her stepfather. He was intoxicated and, worse, gravely crossed lines. Julie had to secure her with a locked bedroom door for her own safety. They're sited in a low-income area of London, battling to make ends meet. During those years of battle were some of the darkest, she stated, of her existence. However, despite that chaos, her voice was the only bright light. In spite of his issues, her stepfather realized she was talented and set up. She needs singing lessons. At that point, she met Lillian Stiles Allen, a man, how well-known vocal coach. Julie referred to her as a third mom. Madame noticed anything unusual. Julie has a remarkable vocal range and tone that is very clear. Julie didn't believe she had a unique voice. She said that she could only be heard by dogs. Highest notes. Others, however, were in awe. She trained diligently, juggling her studies and classes in music, getting ready for a life few children of her age might envision. Julie's her first actual appearances, parents. She was 10 years old and standing on a crate of beer to get to the microphone, playing the piano next to her mother and her father's stepfather. Before long, she was singing for military personnel, taking the train, and even dozing off next to luggage racks. Petula Clark, another kid star, at a certain age, 12. Everything was different. Her father-in-law presented her with a man who operated some of the largest theaters in London. He handed her a Julie, took the shot. Her made their professional debut at the London Hippodrome, where she performed challenging a French opera performance in front of a large audience crowd. Although she was only a child, the show ended with a performance. The audience erupted. That particular evening became a year-long gig. She even possessed a comedian performing a skit with a balloon where she would sprint on stage, called Wally Bow, and let him know that she's a talented singer. The viewership. When she was 13, she became the youngest solo performer to ever appear in front of the Royal Variety Show, King and Queen. After that, things changed. Quick. First on radio, then on television, establishing a recognizable voice throughout Britain. She acted in kid-friendly Jack and the Beanstalk and other plays Cinderella. Furthermore, by the time she was she developed her own fan base as a teenager. Julie didn't have a big hit with her first movie. The voice part was in an Italian, the singing princess cartoon. However, it was the beginning of something for her. Larger. Julie Andrews had recently turned 19, when she took the stage on Broadway for the first time. September was the month. She had secured the lead on the 30th of 1954, Polly Brown's part in the musical The Boyfriend. It was no ordinary debut. It was an event that changed my life. She had been suggested by British for the role, Julie Hattie-Jacques, an actress always grateful for providing her with that initial actual shot. But accepting the position wasn't simple. Julie's family had to abandon her with England at her heels. She was afraid. It was she who was helping them. Monetary. She was now soaring around the globe, uncertain if she'd even be successful. However, her father supported her. To leave, and that one decision would be altered. Everything. She gave a great performance. She was adored by critics. The audiences were astounded, captivated by her strong, clear voice and ideal time for a joke. The performance lasted for 485 shows, and Julie took home for her debut. She won the Theatre World Award. However, the praise wasn't the only reward. Who was it that occurred to be observing? To Alan J. Lerner, a prominent Broadway producer, Frederick Lowe, and others were in the viewers. They were casting for their My Fair Lady, a new program, and they had discovered their version of Eliza Doolittle. Julie was 20 years old and no longer a newbie. She was famous. Eliza in the role, Rex Harrison's opposite, Doolittle in My Fair Lady, was more than just a celebrity. It was a part. The change from flower girl Cockney to polished lady provided Julie with an opportunity to display both. Her voice, her acting, and people observed. The program was a huge success. It remained for years on Broadway, and there were cast recordings on radios everywhere, even on the charts and in homes. Following taking over New York, she introduced the same enchantment to the West End of London. In 1958, she had 4 octaves in her voice and her skill transcended borders. Then, in 1960, she went back to Broadway once more, this time in Camelot as Queen Gui. She featured next to Welsh actor Richard Burton, performer who illuminated the stage. Off stage, things became a bit more difficult. Julie eventually acknowledged that she had a powerful appeal to Burton. He was endearing. She was drawn to him because he was magnetic. 4, he maintained a professional demeanor for a while. However, when he did approach, Julie startled everyone, particularly herself, with retaliating with a profanity. "Mary." "Let loose, Poppins," she jokingly said afterwards, exposing him and ending the conversation down. Their stage presence didn't, but suffer. It sizzled, if anything. More. At first, the show had trouble, but after a performance they turned around. On the show, Ed Sullivan. Viewers appeared and the performance ran for 3 solid years. Burton received a Tony. Julie received a second nomination, and someone watching was crucial. Walt Disney. She was seen by Disney in Camelot and realized she was his Mary right away. Poppins. However, prior to that occurring, Julie felt a sharp pang. Hollywood was producing a motion picture adaptation of My Fair Lady, and everybody thought that she had star in it. She had created the role. Renowned. Eliza Doolittle was her name, but Warner Brothers declined. They desired a larger brand. The part was given to Hepburn, Audrey. It was a stomach punch. Audrey was a well-known movie star already. She was unable to sing like Julie, though. In actuality, the majority of her songs required dubbing by a different vocalist. Later, Julie stated that, had they requested that she perform for someone, she would have spat in someone else's voice. Their eye, yet relinquishing that position allowed the gateway to a better future. Disney suggested Mary Poppins to her. He noticed her unhurried backstage at the Camelot stage. To meet her that evening, Julie believed that he was merely being courteous. Then she informed him she was unable to play any new parts. She was pregnant. "That's," Walt replied with a smile. "All right, we'll hold off." He wasn't merely being pleasant. His ideal project had been this one for many years. He made his daughters a promise. He would adapt their choice into a movie. Book, and Julie seemed to be the only, someone who could pull it off. He even rented a Los Angeles home where her family can remain inside. Mary Poppins made her debut in Nobody Truly Anticipated the Woman in 1964, from a tiny village in England to take throughout the world. For the first time, she was a 29-year-old actress in movies. However, from the moment, she played the magical N on screen. Viewers were captivated. The film blew up. It generated more than $44 million and above $13 and the United States millions globally. In the subsequent year, the two movies faced off at the Oscars. It was crushed by Mary Poppins. Julie Best Actress went to Andrews. Hepburn, Audrey wasn't nominated at all. Within her, Julie thanked the man who made the remarks. Jack Warner, a cheeky gesture that this is possible to the executive who turned her down. Additionally, Mary Poppins produced more money than My Fair Lady. Although it produced at a significantly lower cost, Hollywood had discovered the true identity of Julie Andrews. When theaters began showing The Sound of Music, it wasn't simply a smash in March 1965, it blew up. It produced $286 million globally and made Julie Andrews become a world-renowned figure. She performed a vibrant young nun named Maria von Trapp Horstores music to a mourning house of the family. That first image of her on the mountaintop, spinning, turned into one of the most well-known movie sequences past. However, the back was not amazing. The scenes. The scene was captured on camera by a helicopter, while the blade's wind continued, throwing her to the floor. Later, she jokingly said she was compressed into the grass following each take. Getting 5 Best Picture, among other Oscars, the film earned Andrews a Golden Oscar. A girl, however, being very flawless has a cost. She had just performed in 2 beloved consecutive nanny positions, and individuals were starting to state that she was limited to musicals. Julie was aware that she had to break not like the mold. Thus, in 1964, she chose an entirely other type of The Americanization of Emily is a movie. It took place in World War II and featured a significantly more sinister tone. She performed a British role, widow, across from James Garner. Regarding for the first time, instead of singing, she demonstrated her ability to act. She then partnered with Alfred Hitchcock for the Cold War film Torn Curtain, 1966, saw the publication of a spy thriller. She faced off against Paul Newman, and Universal Pictures was relying on their. Hitchcock wasn't pleased with star power, though. Both actors, in his opinion, were overly polished for his desired rough tone. Detractors were varied, but crowds arrived, in any case. The film earned more than $13 million on a budget of $3 million. It was successful. A wobbly one, though. In the same year, she defeated Hawaii, a huge historical play based on the book by James Michener. Its budget was the largest of any film, $15 million at the time. Additionally, in spite of heavy rain-related delays and even tidal wave warnings, it reached its maximum highest-grossing movie of the year. Julie performed. A lady with a strong will who obeys her husband of a missionary to the islands. Although the performance was strong, oddly, the attention was drawn to Joseline Lagarde, a total novice who performed a Hawaiian queen. She got a prize and stole the show, Golden Globe. It was the type of surprise that no one anticipated. By the end, during the 1960s, the enchantment began to diminish. Julie featured in the movie Star in 1968 about Gertrude Lawrence, a theater actress. The budget was enormous. The filmmaker was the same individual who created The Sound of Music, and everything appeared to be going okay. However, the movie was a failure. Critics blasted her for being so dramatic. Diverse didn't hesitate to call her overdone hedonishness in the performance. The movie was so unsuccessful that it became one of the most costly mistakes of thetan years. In 1970, Darling Lily followed, directed by Blake Edwards, her spouse. Her image was supposed to be reinvented. She swore on screen. She teased in a strip. The audiences were taken aback and in a bad manner. The movie was very expensive, about $25 million, and was a box office failure. It was yet another huge failure. Similar to Hollywood, didn't consider her no longer the leading lady. Oddly enough, she was still awarded a Golden Globe. Nominations for Darling and Star Lily. There was respect, but there was no momentum. She required a reset. In 1972, she started watching TV with the variety show Julie Andrews' Hour, filled with comedy, music, and special guests stars. ABC trusted her so highly that they gave her a 5-year contract. The show received great reviews when it debuted. Reviewers commended her adaptability and appeal, but positive evaluations didn't equate to favorable evaluations. The program battled against increased competition and was canceled after only 1 season. Then something odd occurred. 1 month following the act, the program took home a large Emmy, 10 nominations for 7 prizes. It was an award-winning show that was bittersweet, that no one observed. ABC provided her with some additional specialties to compensate, although TV was obviously not her new home either. She therefore took a risk. She struck the circuit of nightclubs. The best woman, indeed renowned in the Alps for singing with children, now sang jazz while standing in smoky clubs and cracking jokes. It was completely reinventing. She ridiculed her own picture, sarcastic remarks about Hollywood, and shown that she wasn't merely a goody melodious shoes. It was praised by critics. The audiences were impressed. She displayed a different aspect of herself, sharp, humorous, and totally within control. Next, her big screen return occurred in 1979. In the romantic comedy 10, she starred. Blake Edwards was the director. It was seductive, humorous, and quite contemporary. It earned more than $74 million, demonstrating Julie Andrews possessed star power. Even now, she pursued it. Consequently, in 1981, a dark comedy in which everyone was taken aback by the topless appearance. It was no coincidence. She was the method of destroying her previous image and demanding a fresh one. However, the actual turning Victoria made the point in 1982. She portrayed a struggling vocalist in it, someone who poses as a man in order to get a nightclub job. You have to be a lady. The role was bold, multi-layered, and witty. It discussed sexuality, gender identity, and survival, which she did flawlessly. The $28 million from the movie earned her another Golden Globe and nominated for an Oscar. Abruptly, Maria von Peeple no longer just played the role of Trap, recalled the moment they learned her name. What few stars had Julie Andrews done? Ever succeed? She had changed who she was several times, not just once. Additionally, she done it without sacrificing what makes individuals adore her first and foremost. As her profession flourished, her personal life turned into more intricate. Julie had a married couple, Tony Walton, designer, 1959. Their link began back in early life. He initially witnessed her performance when they were little. They eventually became Herpen friend. They were wed when she was continuing to appear in My Fair Lady in London. Their daughter Emma was born in 1962. Now, Julie was juggling Broadway, becoming a mommy, and getting married again. It wasn't simple. They were separated by work, occasionally for months, occasionally throughout continents. Additionally, becoming a mother. While Julie was not a person who juggled fame. Be ready. At one point, she claimed it pulled her in opposing directions. Her heart was caught between her and her child profession, and occasionally even between her husband and her offspring. The strain accumulated over time. She remained, at the time, keeping quiet about it, bearing the feelings in order to continue. Finally, it was too much hardship. In 1969, Julie and Tony got a divorce. The split ended. Andrews felt emotionally spent. She pivoted to counseling, a choice that altered her life. Mike Nichols, the director, encouraged. She listened when she asked for assistance. She found that therapy helped her cope with what she referred to the mess and trash in Herman. It provided her with strength and clarity to continue. Years later, she said, candidly discussing mental health, hoping that tale would benefit others. It was correct. Outside the office of a therapist, that fate made the decision to change things. That's where she met Blake Edwards, the filmmaker. Heather After made a joke about how wonderful a scene from Hollywood. However, that particular instance was actual. Both of them had experienced heartache. Both were subtly injured, and both discovered an odd solace in one another. Another. Despite being 13 years old difference, it suddenly became clear. They were married in 1969. Their existence became a combination of family homes and movie sets. Dinners. She took on the role of Mother Toa's children, and subsequently they took in Tuami and Joanna, our Vietnamese daughters. At home, they were more than just partners. They linked up in work, too. They made 7 movies together, including So and Victor Victoria. Some films didn't do well, like Darling Lily, yet they never let that affect their relationship. Andrews often remarked that Blake's caustic humor balanced her more serious disposition. Their 41 years of marriage until 2010 saw his passing. Additionally, even after, she continued to call their time after that. A genuine love tale together, however lengthy. There was another chapter prior to Blake. Less well-known yet quite sentimental. Returning to Julie starred in Camelot in 1960, Broadway, portraying the opposite of Guinevere King Arthur, played by Richard Burton. On the stage, there was an electrifying chemistry between them. Off stage, it was difficult. Then she was Tony Walton and I are still wed, although cracks has already begun to appear. Burton was lovely, passionate, and unachievable disregard. Later, Julie acknowledged that her marriage was unstable, and she felt be itself. Cooperating closely with Burton Day evoked emotions that she wasn't anticipating. She acknowledged that she was tempted, but she never went overboard. She continued to concentrate on her task. She was aware what was involved, and despite the fact that the pull was powerful, therefore she decided on discipline over lust. That choice might have prevented her from suffering much more. Next, in 1965, The Sound of Music was released. Julie Maria played. Christopher Plummer performed the captain. The chemistry between them was enchanting. It wasn't merely acting, either. They enjoyed a calm time behind the scenes, have a crush on one another. They were both going through difficult periods in their own lives. Julie continued to experience the burden of a troubled marriage. The plumber was overcoming his personal obstacles. It would have been simple for a romantic thing to spark, but it didn't. Plummer once joked that they ought to have had a big spectacular event, but life simply didn't permit it. Julie brought her children along. It was not the right time. However, something had resulted in a close connection that lasted. According to Julie, they never dated, and perhaps that's what created the connection. More powerful. They held one another in high regard, profoundly. She frequently complimented him on stabilizing the music's sound and maintaining from becoming overly charming or foolish. Above, they remained in touch and checked in throughout the years. On one another, shared a laugh, helped each other out, and when Plumber died in 2021, according to Julie, they had stayed close friends to the very end. Asher's personal life also changed. Profession. The 1980s presented new difficulties. In 1986's That's Life, she performed The Singer May Be at Risk for Cancer. The part resonated with me because Around that time, a lesion was discovered by doctors on her throat. The movie looked at aging connections, as well as a fear of the unknown. In the same year, she appeared in a duet with one, performing as a well-known violinist found to have multiple sclerosis. The story was heartfelt and unvarnished. Additionally, it allowed her to collaborate with Liam Neeson, whose powerful performance enhanced the movie's demise. She was rewarded for both duties. Nominations for Golden Globes, demonstrating that she was not only a well-known musician. By Andrews experimented with television in the 1990s. She starred in the sitcom in 1992. Julie portrays a television personality. Hor locates to a tiny town following the marriage of Avett. The film was directed by Blake Edwards Dietrich, but it was never seen by anyone. It had only 7 episodes before being canceled. Despite the series' difficulties, Andrews was successful somewhere else. Julie Andrews, 1987's The Sound of Christmas, earned 5 Emmys. In 1989, she reunion for Julie with Carol Burnett and Carol once more together. In 1990, she played in a concert by Julie Andrews, reminding everyone of her fame. After being off Broadway for 30 years, she made a triumphant comeback. In 1993, she played the lead role in the Stephen Sondheim's analysis of interpersonal connections and apologies. The location was a little off-Broadway production for only 59 performances, however. It was a significant turn. She starred 2 years later in the Broadway show Victor Victoria, adaptation of her movie from 1982. She performed. Victoria Grant is a woman who poses as a man impersonating a woman impersonator. The performance was a huge achievement, having run for more than 700 performances. In the same year, she received an award nomination for Victor Victoria. However, after realizing she was the sole cast member acknowledged, made a daring decision. She turned down the nomination, not because of pride or resentment. She thought the whole cast merited praise. It was an uncommon event in the history of Broadway, yet it demonstrated Andrews' character. Julie Andrews rejoined Disney following The Princess Diaries 2001, lasted 37 years. She portrayed the royal queen Clarice Raldy, awkwardly being guided by her grandmother. Anne Hathaway plays the role of her grandchild, Gary. Marshall, the director, cast her without an audition, being aware that she was ideal for the part. Her first Disney movie was this one. Since 1964, when Mary Poppins earned her an Academy Award. Her performance provided comedy and heart, making Queen one of her favorite roles as that of Clarice. On set, she served as Hathaway's tutor, but she claimed, "Hathaway didn't require much direction. The movie was a success, making $165 million globally." In The Princess Diaries 2, 2004's royal engagement, Andrews even had a rare opportunity to sing, even if her singing voice is no longer full, following surgery in 1997. In the same year, in Shrek 2, she provided the voice of Queen Lillian Zazant IV. She portrayed the mother of Fiona, a queen who is lovely and supporting. In contrast to most in animated movies, she captured sequences making their on-screen appearance, John Clemore genuine chemistry. The Shrek franchise achieved worldwide popularity, and in Shrek the Third, Andrews returned to her role, 2007 and 2010's Shrek Forever After. She narrated the 2007 Disney film Enchanted movie that blends real life with fairy tales, The World. Her voice created a mystical atmosphere, connecting Disney's classic and contemporary narrative. The film made more than $340 million globally. She adopted a humorous part as Lillian Tooth Fairy, 2010, Dwayne's advisor, the head Fairy Johnson's personality, via an unanticipated miraculous penalty. The movie brought in $112 million, demonstrating Andrews could continue to shine in humorous family movies. She oversaw A My Fair Lady's stage performance for its 60th anniversary. The program debuted. Eight explored the Sydney Opera House, several cities. She made sure it was respected. The original by utilizing designs from archives to recreate the outfits and sets. The film broke box office records and got excellent ratings. In 2017, she co-founded and served as presenter of Julie's Green Room, an instructional Netflix series instructing kids on the performance artistic. Celebrity guests appeared on the show, such as Idina Menzel and Alec Baldwin. Her Emma Walton Hamilton daughter, the series was co-produced, making it a family endeavor. The program received 2 nominations for the Daytime Emmys. Andrews, Julie had a voice with a magical quality. Her Mary Poppins was a 4-octave soprano, and the amazing Sound of Music. However, by 1995, there was a problem. Although Broadway performance of Victor Victoria. She began to strain her voice. Initially, it was simply the type of hoarseness that diminishes with rest. However, this time it didn't. Doctors discovered a lesion by 1997 on the cords of her voice. Some referred to it as nodules that are not cancer. Others stated it was a harmless palate. In any case, years of singing had been detrimental. Physicians advised her to take a break, but she desired an actual remedy. June 1997. She entered regarding Mount Sinai Hospital surgery in New York. It was meant to be standard procedure, a rapid process to eliminate the lesion and restore her voice. Rather, it altered her life indefinitely. The procedure afflicted her with long-lasting scars, vocal cords. They were blocked by scar tissue from making the necessary vibrations. She had lost her strong, clear voice. Even it was hard to talk. In the past, surgery on the voice cords wasn't as advanced. A few made use of forceps, others using lasers. Each had a high danger of scarring. Later, Andrews stated that she'd never received a complete warning on the risks. In 1998, her spouse Blake Edwards discussed in public what had occurred. What she had dreaded, he said, most. She would never sing again. Losing her voice sounded as though a piece of herself. December 1999. She took taking action, bringing a malpractice claim against the 2 and Mount Sinai Hospital surgeons. She maintained that they never informed her of the actual dangers and that the surgery had destroyed her capacity to execute. The matter was resolved in private. September 2000 for a confidential quantity. However, no settlement could reverse the harm. She spent the following years looking for solutions. Beginning in 2000, she received several treatments and 4 further procedures, with Dr. Stephen at Massachusetts General Zatel's Hospital. These aided her in speaking. Voice somewhat, although her vocals never returned. In 2002, she changed her concentrate on assisting others. She backed fresh studies on vocal rehabilitation, collaborating with MIT and Harvard Specialists Medical School. Researchers were investigating tissue and laser technology engineering to repair vocal cord injury. Even though she couldn't be there, she prayed that someone else might be able to help. By way of, she refused to vanish despite everything. She discovered a new love for writing. Alongside her Emma Walton Hamilton, her daughter, authored a number of children's books together. However, regardless of how much she achieved, she continued to feel the loss of her voice. She has discussed it candidly. Phoning, it's among the most devastating heartbreaks of her existence. It's possible that Julie Andrews lost her vocal prowess, but her legacy in forever. The world will always remember her voice.